All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome to our Search Engine Journal webinar for today. We hope you're having a really great day, and we are really thrilled to have you with us. I'm joined by our head news writer, Matt G. Southern, and SEJ's Client Success Manager, Jennifer McDonald. Hello, you two. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to answer your questions about SEO, marketing, and AI. So let's get to it. My name is Angie. I'm your content marketing manager here at SCJ, and I'll be moderating. So first, a little bit of housekeeping. So if you have any technical difficulties, please use the chat box to let us know. And while you're if you look at the chat box, you're going to notice that there's an extra tab there for questions. So go ahead and use that to submit your questions, and you can upvote any that you would really like to hear an answer to. We'll answer as many of those as we can at the end of the program. There's also a closed captioning option that you'll find just in the top right corner. There's a little CC button, so please use that if you need to. We will do our best throughout to link to any resources that we happen to mention. But if we miss one, just feel free to ask and we'll drop that link in the chat there for you. The resources that we share will also be in the recap email that you'll get after the end of the webinar. And also at the end of the webinar, if you don't mind sticking around just an extra couple of minutes, there is a short survey. That information is just going to help us gauge what works and how we can make our webinars better and more useful for you. Lastly, the recording of this webinar will be available later today and will come through in your email. So feel free to rewatch this again at your leisure. If you find anything particularly useful or helpful, don't be afraid to share those tidbits on social media using the hashtag SEJ webinars. Anyway, that's enough for me. Without a further delay, let's get to it. Matt and Jennifer, if you want to start, and I'll come back at the end for a little bit of Q&A.
Thank you so much, Angie. And hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Search Engine Journal's senior news writer, and one topic that's making headlines across industries, particularly in digital marketing, is artificial intelligence, more specifically generative AI. So what exactly is AI? AI refers to a broad field of computer science aimed at creating systems capable of performing tasks that usually require human intelligence. These tasks include learning from experience, interpreting complex data, recognizing patterns, understanding natural language, and making decisions. Generative AI is a subfield of AI which goes a step further. It learns from data and uses that learning to create new content or predictions. Generative AI models like GPT-4, developed by OpenAI, can create human-like text that's contextually relevant and highly sophisticated. Over the past few years, we've seen generative AI transition from a novel concept to a technology being leveraged across various industries. In the realm of marketing, the applications of generative AI are vast and transformative. Soon, Jennifer will examine several ways generative AI is changing digital marketing. But first, before we get to that, I'll help you understand how we got to this stage of discussing using AI in marketing in the first place. But before we get to that, I'd like to gauge everyone's experience level with generative AI. How much have you been using it so far since it's come out? It's perfectly acceptable to say that you're not using it at all. Maybe you've tested a few things, use it once a month. Maybe use it more than that, perhaps once a week, or maybe you're more of a heavy user. I'm on that end of using it, at least once a day or multiple times per day.
I know I'm personally using it multiple times a day. It's one of my favorite resources just for everything from a quick gut check, quick validation, all the way down to just cranking out a quick blurb about something. So I use it on everything, even personal stuff. So very exciting. A lot of great use cases for generative AI.
If everybody wants to go ahead and answer, we try to get about 75% of you if we can. But it does look like most people are saying that they've tested a few things out that have interested them. And about just as many people have said that they use it multiple times per week.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Good, we got a good mix of experience. Okay, so when we talk about how AI is being used, and when we say AI, many people think of robots or self-driving cars, but the applications extend beyond that. And let's go back to a little bit to the beginning and talk about how we got. No, I don't mean in the slides. I mean back in history, back to the 1950s to be exact. We're going all the way back to 1956 here. That's when a bunch of minds gathered for the Dartmouth Conference. And that's where scientists showed off what's called the logic theorists. And that laid down the fundamental ideas that we use in AI today. In the 1960s and 70s, people developed more advanced systems. One that sticks out is one called ELIZA. And that was a chatbot so good at making conversation, people thought they were talking to a real person. And you might even hear a term called the ELIZA effect. And that's a phenomenon where people think computer systems are more capable than they actually are. Does that sound like history repeating itself by any chance? So the 1980s, that was a rough patch for AI. You might hear that referred to as the AI winter. And that's because that's when interest and funding for AI research froze over. Things picked up again in 1997 when IBM's Deep Blue beat the world champion chess player, Garry Kasparov, and they triumphed again in 2011 with Watson. And that's when Watson took on two of the greatest Jeopardy champions in history and won. The 2010s saw a huge shift in AI. The shift in AI research towards something called deep learning. Deep learning was key to many of today's AI applications. And that leads us to one of Google's greatest achievements in AI in 2016 with AlphaGo, which is an AI developed by DeepMind, and it was capable of beating the world champion of Go at that time. And in 2018, OpenAI started making headlines. It caught the attention of the tech world with GPT-2. GPT-2 made waves for its ability to generate human-like text that was coherent and textually relevant. In 2020, OpenAI released GPT-3, and that model was even more advanced. It can understand context and learn from past interactions. We're moving a year ahead now to 2021. That's when Google brought us Lambda. That's a language model designed specifically for dialogue. In 2022, OpenAI introduced DALL-E, which creates original images based on text descriptions. And 2022 also brought us ChatGPT, a chatbot developed by OpenAI, which debuted in November 2022. And that was initially built on GPT 3.5. That brings us to where we are today in 2023. So by January of this year, ChatGPT had more than 100 million users, making it the fastest growing consumer application. In March, OpenAI's GPT-4 model was released and integrated into Bing Chat, as well as the ChatGPT Plus subscriber service. In response to ChatGPT, Google released its chatbot, Google Bard, which is based on the Lambda family of language models. And then most recently, that brings us to this month, where we have Google's SGE, Search Generative Experience, and soon we'll have AI integrated into Google Advertising as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that history, Matt. I think that brings us to a really good point of how is generative AI changing digital marketing, right? We've seen so many improvements in so many different areas, especially in the science behind language models. But what does that mean for us, right? What does that mean for us now, a couple months ago, and of course, moving forward? So already in the realm of generative AI, we're seeing a lot of great strides in things in areas such as improved productivity, right? We're able to output narrow tasks a lot faster. Now, narrow tasks are simple one-off tasks that typically might take a person 5 to 10 minutes to perform, sometimes even longer. But with a generative AI tool, you're able to create these pieces within seconds, right? So those narrow tasks, we're going from spending 5 to 30 minutes on a single task down to freeing up that mental space, that mental capacity, that time and that bandwidth in order to move forward in projects, crank out content faster, have a larger brain and a larger scope on any campaigns that we're creating, right? So it's enabling us to create bigger, larger pathways to revenue because we're spending less time on those narrow tasks and more time on the things that really move the needle. Following that, we're seeing improved connection, especially when we're thinking about marketing campaigns, especially when we're thinking about human experience with our content, right? Through just the interaction alone of inputting prompts into any of the GPT models, we're having to really consider and think about the personas that we're talking to or wanting to talk to. We're really having to think about and input very specific demographics. And we're having to consider what certain phrases mean at the most basic level, which positively affects our lowest common denominator when we come to campaigns. Who are those individuals who need the most education, right? Because we're having to think along those very basic language lines in order to inform or prompt our GPT tools on how to create a piece, product, email, etc. Because we're having to think so deeply about those on the prompt, it enables us to make those same considerations and have a deeper connection to the needs, the language, and the wants of our audience that we're trying to reach. So we're getting a deeper connection both from the interaction with our GPT tool and then also the output that it gives us. Kind of hinging off of that productivity leg, we're also seeing improved ideation, right? We think about the phrase or the adage, don't reinvent the wheel, right? So by leveraging tools such as generative AI, we're able to bypass a lot of those very repetitive steps when it comes to content creation, campaign creation, strategy creation, right? No longer do we have to sit there and type out the skeleton of our go-to-market strategies, right? We can have GPT generate that skeleton for us, something that might take 45 minutes, 2 hours. It can generate the skeleton and then we go back and plug in the key information, right? So we're able to jump ahead in a process 5, 10 steps and get pieces out faster, or on the flip side, think about the larger impact of those pieces. Again, that leads into improved funnels, right? Because we're able to create those deeper, more powerful campaigns. And then finally, improved beginner content is something else that we're seeing. And what I mean by that is, people in companies, small business owners, solopreneurs who are breaking into the space with their new marketing idea, their new concept, their new brands, right? A lot of solopreneurs are, really strapped. They're bootstrapped. How do they create this content so fast? When I think of e-commerce, right, taking pictures of your products, but then also having to stage those products. These are all things that typically you need a team for or a lot of time. And now in some ways, generative AI is able to improve that beginner content, make it possible for solopreneurs to create a nice platform to start their business on. So with that, I wanted to pose another poll. Right? I'm excited to see the range of people who are currently using AI in some capacity. So in what areas have you started to, practice using AI in and maybe even test some of your internal processes at the company that you're with? I'm personally using it across the board: SEO, PPC, paid media. There's some strong movements there. Content creation, paired with SEO. One of the biggest places you can leverage generative AI in. Email marketing, awesome ways to create quick emails. Strategy, we touched on that a little bit. I see Greg is excited about using it for campaigns. So yeah, I'm excited to see what the results are coming in as. I know Angie can probably let us know, and I'm super thrilled.
So we have two pretty popular answers. The big one, of course, is SEO, because definitely, and content creation, which seems to generally be a pretty popular topic these days.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And it's funny because content creation, so much is lumped into that. And it's been just really exciting to see how many different tools are coming out for all of the legs of content creation: video, audio, scripts, everything, all the way down to, of course, graphics and imagery and photography that maybe we can't shoot. Again, thinking of those solopreneurs. Awesome. Great results there. So this is a pretty hefty slide. And I think what I'm going to do here, because a lot of these use cases of generative AI in digital marketing, I think we're actually going to talk through. There were a lot of great questions submitted ahead of the webinar. And, a lot of these different ways to leverage generative AI specifically in these areas they're going to be answered. But what I'll do real quick is just kind of travel through, keeping in mind where I think everyone tends to be using generative marketing so far in this particular session. So we have SEO and content, right? We've seen a lot of great use cases for creating high engagement titles, right? Generating those titles in a way that makes readers really want to interact with those pieces. Of course, structuring the content, keyword strategy, and keyword cluster validation. Super excited about that. Hope I get to answer a question about that later. Link building outreach and really cleaning up that organic link building content. And then also, really thinking about that double EAT, that's what I call it, content recaps. Underneath the content side, right? Topic ideation, content gap identification, outline structure, loving how we can really go in and speed that process up there. Audience tone validation and hyper-personalized email generation. So those are just some of the tips of the iceberg on how you can use generative AI right out of the box. But on the flip side, we've seen a lot of companies and, I'll stay there. We've seen a lot of companies take these language models and actually upgrade, and train those language models, leveraging their own company's information, which allows them to do really robust things, right? They're able to build out proprietary, more realistic chatbots for customer service, generating accurate sales forecasts, all the way over to campaign performance forecasts, specifically with in-house data, right? Using predictive nurture pathing and customized personalized upselling, specifically using first-party data that you've collected and then taught a language model. So there's all kinds of great ways to use generative AI, just from starting places such as using ChatGPT all the way to building out a robust model that is personalized to your company's needs. So on the flip side, when is generative AI harmful in digital marketing, right? I know a lot of people have been seeing some news articles coming out about the different ways that generative AI is really kind of causing some issues for some individuals. So the first area I really want to make sure people are thinking about when they're incorporating Gen AI is data privacy and proprietary information protection, right? So make sure it's fine for you and your business to upload any proprietary information to your tool of choice. Preferably, if your company does have proprietary information, you're going to want to consider creating your own model that is not accessible by any outside parties. The next one you'll want to be on the lookout for is content accuracy, right? Recently, a lawyer generated their court documents using generative AI. And as we know, generative AI is not always accurate. It has a very limited data set, and it doesn't have the same critical thinking that we as human beings have. So this particular lawyer was discovered to have had in their briefs 6 legal cases that actually did not exist, right? So very tight line. It's still very important to make sure you're checking your work. So if anybody's thinking about, oh, what's my role in AI? We're still needing a lot of human interaction and human eyes on the content. And then the last thing to look out for in terms of things that are harmful is what I'm calling total AI content. Basically, that is allowing AI to generate everything, and then you're just uploading, publishing, and marketing specifically with that AI content with no additional eyes, no editing steps, and no personalization, right? So while Google doesn't directly penalize AI-generated content, it does praise that EAT content, which generative AI cannot create. We still need those human experiences, that human expertise to make sure the content is both accurate, personalized, and unique. So now is my favorite part, and I'll let Angie come back in and kick us off.
Thank you guys so much for sharing that. So one of the questions that we had submitted, I have for you as well. I'm not sure which one of you wants to take it, but everybody seems to be curious about SEO for AI and how AI is kind of changing SEO, particularly with the emergence of, SGE. So thoughts?
Yeah, sure. I can start with that one. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's a great question. And AI is definitely poised to have a significant impact on SEO strategies, and especially when it comes to keywords and ranking content. First, one of the ways that comes to mind is AI-powered tools can analyze significantly vast amounts of data in a short amount of time, and you can use that can be used to your advantage to identify patterns, to better understand the intent behind search queries. It means that keyword analysis becomes more accurate, can help marketers identify more relevant keywords that align with user intent and search trends. The natural language processing capabilities means that makes it easier to understand the context and meaning, why searchers are using the words and phrases that they are. That's what I think that's one of the biggest opportunities right now is to use it for data analysis. I know that everyone's rushing to use it to create content and blog posts and articles, but personally, I think that the greatest promise in AI lies in its ability to parse large amounts of data almost instantly, and you can make better decisions faster, be more agile, and pivot and shift when certain trends come up in your data.
Yeah, especially
absolutely.
when you're tying it to things like BigQuery, right? Been fantastic. What about you, Jennifer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think about all the different types of people who may have more comfort or less comfort jumping into the AI space and leveraging AI with their workloads. You do have people who will still, and rightfully so, believe that the human mind is the best when it comes to creating content, and that is correct. But I think where we can all leverage AI in terms of SEO, I think a great use case is on the validation side, right? So if you're the type of person that does like to still hand create all of your content from scratch, typing out those articles, doing your keyword management, your on-page SEO, one of the things that you can do before you publish that piece of content, and I'm thinking specifically with ChatGPT here, is you can actually copy and paste your final draft of your piece of content. Let's say it's a blog post, upload it, paste it into ChatGPT, and then ask it the prompt of, and it can be just as simple as, what keywords does this copy appear to be targeting? And that way you can make sure that you haven't accidentally keyword stuffed. That way you can make sure that your keyword clusters, your keyword groups are concentrated around the right theme that you're going for, because it will give you a list of 10 of the most used, most leveraged keywords and keywords phrases from the copy that you present and you paste into ChatGPT. So, I mean, everything, again, like from content creation, from trend analysis, all the way down to just verifying that you've hit the mark with your content and your SEO, your on-page SEO. That's a great way to leverage generative AI in the SEO space.
So Karen Nielsen asks, Christy Hines has written that the sources chosen by SGE do not always match the top organic search results. I've seen this reflected by other researchers too. Could you see this leading to a brand new form of SEO that seeks to optimize content for AI synthesized content over organic results?
Well, the important thing to keep in mind there is that it's still in the experimental stages, and the fact that it's presenting snippets in that way might not even be intentional. It might not even be the final product that we get when it's out of the testing stages. So it's hard to really read too much into that at this time. But as far as SEO goes, I think that Google's advice has always been never to create content specifically for search or specifically for algorithms, and I think the same holds true for AI, regardless of what the SERP looks like or how the SERP is generated. Human-driven content written by experts, I believe that's always going to rise to the top. No matter whether it's traditional search, AI-based search. I think that chasing AI snippets or writing content specifically to game the AI system. It's not going to work out long term. Might get some quick wins in the beginning, but long term, it's the the human driven EEAT content that's going to stand the test of time.
Yeah, I feel the same. It kind of reminds me of, SERP features that might feature a web page from page 2, page 3, right? So it really reminds me of that same instance. So I'm, of course, with Matt, really thinking about EEAT. That's the best way to move forward, especially in light of the types of content that's going to be appearing from generative AI. Thinking about your personal experiences, adding that empathy, adding that kind of niche viewpoint into whatever it is you're talking about. That's going to be your differentiator. And so, that allows you to have a place of focus, which might inevitably put you in that place just by following that particular rule.
Yeah. So it might be wise then for websites and publishers then to start focusing on like a real hyper niche and really getting specific with what they're producing.
That and really leaning into kind of subject matter experts, right? Providing those different stories, providing those different details, providing those exact experiences that don't yet exist for AI to pull from.
Yeah, to that point, Angie, actually, we'll get to it later, but one of my predictions that we'll get to at the end of the presentation was involving hyper niche content. We'll see it later, but I think I wrote something to the effect of hyper niche content is going to see huge gains in search because of how hyper focused the search queries will be. The fact that SGE allows you to refine your queries is going to lead to some really long tail and specific queries and questions. And yeah, that's going to give hyper niche content the chance to shine that it didn't have before.
Yeah, that hidden gem aspect. So Colin wants to know more about the ad side of things like SGE and BARD. What do we think is happening, or what do we know is happening in terms of ads in those sorts of formats?
Well, we know ads are coming. That's guaranteed. That's that's where Google makes the majority of its revenue. How we're going to get there and what it's going to look like in the end, that's something we're all watching in real time right now. But as far as I know, as far as what we can see and what we can use today in the SGE, ads are still coming up before the organic results, and it doesn't look like that's going to be changing.
Right. And then on top of that, I think even before ChatGPT kind of blew up into the world space, like the main stage, we were already seeing usage of AI in paid, right? We think of Performance Max, where it would, piece together pieces and parts based off of the data it received from your human interaction with your ads. And we're already starting to see a lot of companies kind of build AI tools that leverage that same data in a smarter, more advanced way as the language models begin to improve, right? So going back to where I was mentioning just a little bit about training those language models, right? Companies are beginning to train their own language models to understand that ad copy, to generate backgrounds, to make slight modifications based off of user behavior to your ads, to your ad creatives, to your images. So some of that is already starting to be in existence. In terms of the performance of some of these newer things, like Matt said, we're all learning in real time. So it's exciting to see, how these things are changing and the types of outputs that we're receiving to make our inputs better for the AI to continue to help us. It's kind of like a cycle, right? We make it better, it makes us better. We make it better, it makes us better. But yeah, no, real time for sure. We're excited to see what's coming.
Another kind of related question is, how prepared do you two think that we are, and that SEO and website owners are in general, for the arrival of AI? Do you think we're kind of like everybody's kind of pivoting in the right direction, or is it a bit more of a everybody's trying a bit of everything?
I think it seems like everyone's trying a little bit of everything, right? I just think about the timeline of adoption. When I think of SEO specifically, there's always the first adopters, and then we have the people who really hold on to the old style and the old values, right? So I'm thinking that right now it's all over the place, but we're going to have some guiding posts that are coming up as players to help kind of guide and uncover and discover and dig into and delve, just like we have in the past as we learn the changes of SEO and, of course, digital marketing.
What about you, Matt? Are you seeing anything in any terms of any kind of preparation on, more of the technical side and more of the bigger stuff?
Yeah, well, to that question, I ask if we're ever prepared, as far as as SEOs, are we ever prepared for what's coming next? There's changes coming, every other day, every week. There's core updates. There's new ranking systems being introduced. So I think that we're as prepared as SEOs are going to be as prepared as they can be. I think that some are chasing the AI gold rush of just kind of churning out articles as fast as they can, ranking them and making money that way. That's a strategy people are following, and I think that's kind of like fun chasing fool's gold, if we're keeping the gold rush analogy. Yeah, it's not something that I think is advisable long term, but there's going to be people promoting that and saying that they're going to give you a list of 10 different ways to apply this to your content. And but if what you're doing right now in SEO is working, then I think you're well prepared to navigate what's coming with AI.
Yeah, I've noticed that even there's some different recommendations that have been absolutely horrific, that if you know anything about like developing different strategies or whatever, that that's not going to work. So you have to be really careful about what you follow. Let's pivot a little bit to more of the sales side, sales and client management. Is there opportunity for AI there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the great things that we're already doing that's kind of already prepared us for allowing the handoff of some of these, again, simple tasks are already in place, especially in our minds, right? So, you can begin to follow, you can begin to track, you can begin to build up your first party data of what your users are doing, where your website visitors are in the entire funnel that you have built, and kind of determine, what are they looking at? What are their needs? What are their need cases? And then from there, you have a database that's built that you can leverage to either, if you have the resources, build your own language model to inform your CRM, to inform some of those more quote archaic tagging systems that you may have had in place. You can even leverage AI to create profitability models and potential models. Will this particular client convert based off of what we've seen in the past? So all of these complex user behavior formulas and calculations can now be taken over by AI to be done faster. So then we can work better on creating personalized content, swooping in at exactly the right, precise, measured point to have a specific sales pitch for that individual. On the e-commerce side, thinking of B2C, some of the things that I'm seeing be put in place are, again, watching the user behavior on your website, discovering what a user is interested in, adding to their cart, where they're clicking. If they've added 2 items to a cart in a specific bundle of sorts, right? You can create or have launched, some kind of encouraging message to really help seal the deal on that sale, right? So just being able to have something that is proactive, thinking like a human, entering that sales process and really pushing those users toward the goal of conversion in that smart AI-centric, really quick way will help the sales team begin to close those deals faster, right?
And that's huge. That's huge. That sounds like, one of the biggest kind of boosts to sales and marketing since like the CRM was created.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
What about you, Matt? Have you noticed anything really interesting on the sales side?
Yeah, I can. I've noticed how people are using it at different stages of the funnel. From awareness to consideration to conversion, even works in retention. AI plays a role. Can play a role in different forms of customer service. They excel at enhancing discovery and awareness by analyzing user behavior, and can provide more personalized, relevant copy and for nurturing leads and sales. It can anticipate even pain points and questions that people come up with. It's another thing about as marketers, we're gathering all this data and all this customer interaction in CRMs. And you can feed all that into an AI system, and you can ask it a lot of questions and help. As Jennifer was saying, help validate some of your decisions.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of it as kind of, I think in the past when we're kind of setting up our CRMs or setting up our, automations, right? We used to be forced to think in this kind of if-then statement kind of fashion, right? If someone visits this page, then deliver this message. If someone visits this page, add this tag in the CRM and then send this email, right? But now we're able to bypass the if-then and just allow these natural conversational techniques to happen as if I'm talking to someone, as if I'm, pitching a real sale to them in real time. It's less rigid, more fluid, and maybe a little even odd to say this, more human-like, right? Because we're picking up on those signals of a shopper as if we were following them around in a grocery store.
Yeah. You're not relying on this keyword means that they're after, like it's a post-purchase search kind of thing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So you alluded to this earlier, Matt, but do you think AI, I think actually it was Jennifer, do you think that AI-based content will be penalized by the search engines?
I'll let Matt go first.
Yeah, sure, I can take that. Well, Google's official position on it is that AI content in and of itself isn't penalized, like just the fact that it's been generated by AI isn't a reason to penalize it. But what Google doesn't like and never has liked is content written specifically for search engines and specifically for search algorithms. So if that's the, I guess you'd have to ask yourself, why are you creating the content? If there was no Google and there was no, some gain, sort of financial gain to be had from publishing this content, is it information that you would write and put out and share with the world because it's valuable? That's what I think is at the end of the day what matters to Google, is that it's getting, people are putting out valuable content. And that's so, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one of my predictions, and of course we're going to get to that, toward the end, but I think, the loosest way to phrase it, in my opinion, is that I think that total AI content, or content that is, pulled from it, because all of the learning that, let's say for instance, ChatGPT is based off of content that already exists, right? And so while we aren't technically creating duplicate content, we aren't adding anything new to the web, right? So while I don't think Google is going to penalize it, I do think it might be naturally demoted just because it does not have those key differentiators of real experience, new content, human touch, right? So no penalization, but I do think you have to watch out for the demotion of that content, just because while not technically duplicate content, it is kind of duplicatory in nature.
Yeah, that's an important distinction. The difference, between demotion and penalization, which is, demotion is almost just as bad, but technically you're still in the SERPs. But yeah, that's not something you want either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's almost worse, because at least if you get a penalty, you can be like, oh dear, I should maybe do something about that. Whereas you're kind of floating in the middle. There's no big like red warning sign that comes up, right? It just doesn't do very well. So I have a selfish question to ask. What is one way you are using AI tools right now to make something better? If you could only choose one AI tool, what would it be?
I would choose ChatGPT right now in this moment, because to me it is flexible, right? I think a lot of companies that are currently kind of pumping out tools and jumping on that gold rush, right? They're just using ChatGPT as they could be using ChatGPT as kind of their foundational model. And I think that because of how open ChatGPT is and how much different types of knowledge it has built into its processing, you're able to just do more in different fields, different verticals, than if you were using a singular tool that is geared towards one purpose. But also, I work mainly with content and conversational pieces, so I don't do a lot with graphics. So.
Little biased.
Yeah.
Little. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I'll pick something different. Like ChatGPT is fantastic. That's one that I use more than anything else. And there's a plugin, a Chrome plugin that I feel okay to mention because there's a free version of it. It's called AIPRM. It's a Chrome plugin that works with ChatGPT. So you install it and it has a list of different templates you can use. You just click on it and then it tells you what information it needs from you, and then it'll generate whatever the prompt is. Like there's hundreds, thousands. There's a huge community of people contributing prompts to this repository, and some are better than others. So your mileage may vary. It's best to test it. And if a lot of people here are just using it to test things, that's one way that you can get an idea of its capabilities without being quote unquote prompt engineer or whatever, prompt artist, or whatever the term is. It's a really easy way to use like advanced prompts and get an idea of what it's capable of. And in addition to that, I'm also a big fan of Midjourney. It offers free trials occasionally. That's if you're reading my articles on Search Engine Journal, the images you see at the top are mostly made with Midjourney. So yeah, big fan of that one. I could go on about all the ones I use, but yeah, those are the two
I
that I like
know.
most.
I was thinking the same thing because I also have another tool that helps me generate product backgrounds from PNGs. I'll have to go grab the link because it's bookmarked. I just click on it and go, So once I grab that, I'll paste it in the comments. If anyone out there is doing e-commerce or product shots and they don't have the time to stage photos, it's a great tool that will automatically generate backgrounds that really look like the product is there. So yeah, I'll grab that link and I'll paste it into the comments.
So you guys have teased some more content and some examples for us. Would you like to walk us through that?
Perfect. All right. So let's see. We've covered kind of a nice range of questions, right? So I just want to take a second to thank everyone for submitting those questions when you RSVP'd. That was a really great kind of range of great information. A lot of people had very similar questions. So I'm hoping for any of the questions that were pre-submitted that we haven't had a chance to get to, I'm hoping that the next couple of slides might lend themselves to kind of jumping off points for those potential answers. So we're talking about tools. We're talking about the tools that we liked, that we're using. But what does that mean for everyone else? How can everyone else kind of pick their tool? How can they decide to adopt new AI tools into their processes? So I have a couple of different tips and techniques that you can use to think about how you want to incorporate AI. So my first tip is to crawl, then walk, then run. Right? AI can be overwhelming, especially with a lot of the new news that's coming out, a lot of the changes. Where do you start? Which tool do you pick up? Right? So my recommendation is start with simple tasks, right? It can be anything. You can even start with just, do I want a Big Mac or a Whopper, right? You can leverage ChatGPT, see what it gives you, see what it does, right? Start with those simple tasks. And then from there, you'll be able to learn how your business can augment that AI output and match it with any human processes that are in place, right? So experiment, see what's possible, and then add one new piece to your internal processes. Then maybe add a second, right? You don't have to go all in. My second tip is to use the cyborg approach, especially when we think about content, right? Cyborgs usually part human, part machine, right? So the cyborg approach allows you to remember that when you're creating content, consider that you still need your heart, you still need the emotions that you and your reader need to experience to convert, be nurtured, whatever that phase is. And those experiences of being human, and then match that with the speed of a machine, right? So cyborg approach, right? If you're wondering how to incorporate it, you can just think of AI as a processor for speed. Efficacy comparison, right? If you're not sure how you could have used an AI tool before you started your process, once you're done with a project or a task, input your original idea into an AI tool, right? And then see how close what it generated was to your final result. And then from there, you can start to see where the limitations of AI are, and you can pick the pieces that work and could work for any future processes. You can take trials of various tools and actually have a really great website called aitoolkit.org, where some really kind soul about a month and a half ago started collecting all of the AI tools that were in production, created a great search engine for it, and it allows you to figure out what it is you're trying to accomplish, and then it offers you the tools that are currently in progress and that are available for you to use. So it's a great resource to find new tools to try depending on what you're doing. Make AI your best friend, right? Spend 5 minutes a day just trying AI in any area. Just like I was saying before, maybe you want to make a decision on if you should floss first or you should brush your teeth first, right? Ask AI, see what it gives you, because then you're starting to build, your personal database of potential use cases for AI. Start an AI committee. That's what we've done here at SEJ, right? Especially when it comes to figuring out how AI can fit into your business model, how AI can be safe for your business to use, or if you just know that you're going to need a robust analysis of the potential for AI, create a committee. Start it with people who have this passion for AI or people who you think it might be a great, tool for problem solving, right? Build a committee, let them take off and run with it and present those ideas to, whether that's your higher ups or the company as a whole. And then finally, think of AI as your co-pilot or your personal assistant, right? Think of it as maybe what you wanted Siri to be, and then just use it in kind of those ways, right? If you're, again, worried about if AI is going to kind of take over, or if you don't know where to plug it in, just think of it as a co-pilot or a personal assistant. And I find that that's a great way to unlock your personal potential with AI.
If I may add on to the point there about the trials of tools, trials are awesome. And one of the most important things to do when you're on a limited time trial is to test out the claims that the tool is making, because I find that AI is kind of like the new the new gluten-free. It's kind of like all these tools are kind of like all these tools are adding AI onto selling themselves as like AI-based tool, when really they just kind of added on this little AI feature onto their existing tool. I'll give like a better example of what I mean.
I have
like
one.
I was oh yeah.
Yeah, I do have an example. There was a particular website that used to focus on personal growth journeys, almost like a life coach. Then they added on AI-driven life coach, and they had this list of promises that the AI is going to now add to their software. But once you get inside of it, you find that it's just bare bones, right? So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of tools out there, like Matt's saying, that that aren't quite fully baked, and they're also just kind of using AI as their draw, right? So yeah, make sure you're utilizing those trials before you kind of jump all in to make sure it does everything it promises, and then also that it actually is leveraging AI in the way that you intended to.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you don't want to get locked into a tool that doesn't actually do what it says it's going to do.
Perfect. So we talked a little bit about creating a committee. And so our committee has started using, we've traveled through a bunch of different tools. This is where we are right now in our tool test. These are the tools that we're currently, trialing, testing, seeing what it's capable of. And then, of course, from there, we'll be, considering, how do we inform and teach all these things. So right now for copywriting and SEO assistance, we're looking at and using Copy AI, Jasper AI, ChatGPT, questions.db, which is a great singular use tool to further discover more like almost like a mind map of where the next potential question from your reader what it might be. So it almost takes like people also ask, but then adds human logic to it to understand what the natural progression of a need state of your user is. So that would allow you to kind of inform your content to be helpful from start to finish. Same with also ask, right? So these are all really great ways to make sure that your content is human first. We talked about for customized image creation, we're using Midjourney and DALL-E. For photo enhancement, Remini. So if we have anybody who their clients are possibly notorious for giving you low quality images and not understanding resolution, Remini is a great option for that. Proactive touch point planning. So this is one of my favorites. I'm going to try to quickly breeze through this one. But long story short, if you're creating something like a how-to, or if you're creating a go-to strategy, you can use something like Agent GPT, which is a browser version of Auto GPT. Basically, what it can do is it can write its own prompts to fulfill the final destination of your need. So if you're trying to sell a brand new tool, but you don't know what your end user might need to know about your tool and you're creating the go-to-market strategy, you can just say into Agent GPT, I want to market what your tool is, how do I go about that? And it will kickstart the process. It'll talk about market research, and then it'll renege on itself and go and ask itself, how would I do market research? And then it would list the steps that it would do, and then it would question those, create new prompts. And so you go all the way through the full process and you have an entire strategy laid out for you. So great for hitting all those touch points if you're traveling through a funnel for your customer journey. Same also asked in ChatGPT fit within that. Prompt creation, I forgot to add AI PRM to prompt creation because it's a great tool. It has tons of prompts built into it, and you can save your prompts that you create yourself, so you don't have to copy and paste from a Google Doc. And then, of course, Agent GPT and Auto GPT will create the next potential prompt, the most logical next step, and create that prompt for you. So you start to build your database of what prompts are good. Meeting and task productivity, Notion and Reclaim, they're fantastic for time blocking, keeping track of your day at work, and then also notating and generating content from meeting notes, etc. And then finally, I think I shared that. Yeah, I definitely shared this one already. AI Toolkit. That's what I'm using a lot of to discover what tool I'm going to try on any given day. And then finally, before we open it up for any questions from the audience, our predictions. So we talked a little bit about these as we kind of went through, but my predictions so far are that small business and solopreneurs will see faster success. And again, that's because they're going to have access to bandwidth unlocking potential and be able to create the things that would typically take them hours within just minutes and seconds without the need for, having to spend all their time on smaller tasks. First party data, right, will have a more accessible and robust home, allowing for a resurgence of hyper-targeted marketing. So that kind of fits into that PPC leg, it fits into that sales funnel leg. You'll be able to now truly leverage the first party data you've been collecting as a replacement of the loss of third party data and cookies. Better audience connection through predictive problem solving, again, using Agent GPT to predict the next logical question your audience may have. And then finally, from my end, total AI content, which is what I'm calling AI content that is not modified. It's just copied and pasted specifically from your tool and then published. Total AI content will be naturally demoted due to its duplicatory nature. Personal experience and human touch, that cyborg model, will be the key differentiator.
Yeah, and I'll expand a bit on my predictions. We got a spoiler of this. Angie spoiled my predictions. That hyper niche content will get a chance to shine in search results. All that content that you're painstakingly producing, you're pouring your expertise into, and it's just not getting the traction that you maybe thought it would, or you think it deserves, or that it genuinely does deserve, because there's nothing else like it out there on the web. If you're not getting visibility on that content right now, I believe that the new search generative experience is going to surface that and get it in front of the people who need to see it. And this is one of my more wild predictions, but I think that AI is going to bring a level of personalization to search results like we've never seen. And right now, search results are personalized based on previous activity, web and search history. But AI is capable of learning so much more about a person. It could learn the person's accessibility needs. It could learn what it responds. If it responds, the searcher responds more to visual SERPs or text, or maybe they need some video. Maybe they click on short videos a lot, so that person's SERP is going to be full of short clips, while another person searching for the same thing might get a bunch of text links, and that's because it's personalized to their interests. That's what I think is going to be the evolution of SGE. Just lots and lots of personalization. I don't know. I don't have any evidence or any statement from Google necessarily to back that up, but I just think it makes sense. Why not use all this intelligence to make everyone's search experience better and more personal? And that's like the quality of Google search results right now isn't to everyone's satisfaction, and this is a chance to build on that and make people happier with the results they get.
Excellent. So we have like 3 minutes left. So I'm going to sneak in one more audience question, if that's all right with everybody. How is AI able to enhance email marketing, and how can you use AI with your email marketing strategy? Do you have a quick tip?
Yes. So, I'm thinking about, let's say, something like link building, right? We're always seeing in our inboxes really horrible attempts to get backlinks, right? Usually they're very spammy. We see specific text in those emails and we immediately just shut off. We don't even, consider that opportunity, right? And so by leveraging a tool like AI, you're able to begin to create a differentiation in the way that you're performing outreach, because we already know what's out there doesn't work, right? So by leveraging AI and leveraging the logical pathways of how we think about and consider any kind of conversion action, then we can leverage, any of the AI tools to generate better email copy at a faster rate, to give us more split testing opportunities, etc., to perform sort of that cold outreach for those links. So that comes off the top of my head.
Sure. Matt, what about you? Quick tip?
Yeah, you can use it to analyze past conversations and tailor more appropriate copy to certain individuals based on what they respond to.
Excellent, excellent. So I would love to ask you a whole bunch of more questions, but we are out of time. So I would like to thank you both very, very much for sharing all of your knowledge and your insights. It was so helpful. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody else did as well. To everybody who is watching, we will send you the recording of this in just a few hours in case you want to rewatch it, or there were some tips that you maybe missed. No panic. That video is coming into your email. Great conversation again. We will be able to answer any questions that we didn't get to today. That will come in your email as well. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe to Search Engine Journal to make sure that you're keeping up on all of the latest. And with that, I would like to bid you all a very dear farewell. Hope you enjoyed, and don't be afraid to reach out. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.